Welcome to our Wednesday webinar. I hope that you have your coffee, your water, your whiskey, or whatever your poison is ready. And my name is Sandra. I'm going to be your MC. We have today with us sales and marketing expert Renato Beninatto. And we also have the Chief of Research for NIMSI Insights, Dranch. We're going to be talking today about inbound marketing for LSPs. Remember to follow us in Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Google+. A couple of things before we start. We are going to be streaming this webinar live on Facebook, on YouTube. So if you have any questions during the presentation, just put them in the comments or in the chat window, and we will get back to you at the end of this webinar. If we're not able to go through your question, then we will follow with you afterwards. If you're in Twitter, the hashtag for the webinar is hashtag NIMSI_insights. Be sure to use the hashtag so that we can catch your questions, and also use the Twitter handle at NIMSI_insights. By registering to the webinar, you are already eligible to receive regular updates via email when we publish any new content. We are also going to be sending you a recording of this webinar. And if you want to see the old webinar, just go to our YouTube channel and you can have them there. Now, without further ado, Renato, they're all yours.
Thank you, Sandra. Inbound marketing is focused on attracting customers through relevant content. With inbound marketing, potential customers will find you through channels like blogs, search engine, and social media. Inbound marketing is a term that was created by the founders of HubSpot, Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan, around 2006. The creators of HubSpot designed this new attractive category. Inbound has this concept, this idea that it makes people come to you instead of you reaching out to them, which would be outbound. So inbound became associated as a new category, and HubSpot got the first place in this category. And this is what you should do as well when you're positioning your company. If you can, create a ranking where you're number one in the heads of your customers. This is criteria number one of the concept around positioning. Kostya, what do you have to say about the types of contacts that we have?
Well, thanks, Renato. Hi, everyone. Let's start with some data. I love data and charts. This chart shows us the different marketing channels that LSPs use to reach the customers. And in green, you can see the percentage of LSPs that are very satisfied with this channel. In yellow, you see those that have invested into this channel but do not know if it brings them customers or not. Dark gray are those that have invested and felt no returns from that channel, so they lost money there. And white, this channel is not used. This is based on surveys of LSPs by associations in United Kingdom and France in 2017, and we have more than 100 companies here. So as you can see, personal contact at client events or even through calling wins. Search engine optimization wins because it's very accessible for small companies. And inbound is practically the last thing small and medium LSPs use to reach their customers so far. As we move on, in the segment with larger customers, the top large LSPs, the top 100 language services providers in the world, the situation is somewhat different, but 1 in 5 of them have adopted this methodology and have set up one of the premium marketing automation systems. We used Webalizer. It's an application that can go to a website and see the tracking codes that are going behind the scenes and recognize the CMS and this analytics systems. So in a large LSPs, 1 in 5 was using these systems, and among the SaaS companies, the technology providers, every second company is using the system as of now. HubSpot is the most popular. Renato?
Well, why would you want to consider inbound? When an enterprise client comes to your website, they rarely order translations instantly. And they don't go to an order form and say, I want translations. Actually, one of the challenges that we have in this industry is that there is a disconnect between the moment that the person that you sell to a person and the moment that they need the translation. So instead, they go through this sales cycle that can last up to 2 years in some cases. If you just have order forms and about us sections in your website, there aren't going to be many ways for you to keep in contact with those clients who happen to visit your website in the past. With marketing automation software, you can track the visitors that come to your website and then try to understand how they engage with your company. If you have relevant content, you can keep them engaged and nurture them over the whole engagement cycle. In practice, what this means is that if a prospect fills a form to download an ebook or leaves a comment, you can already see their name and their company and capture that in your system. This is what is called gated content. You give me your information and I'll give you data. I will give you something that is valuable. Then another approach would be for you to send them multiple emails that adjust to whether they opened some content or not in your website. This is called the drip campaign because drips are the way that water makes holes in stones. So over time, little by little, you'll get there. You can also continue feeding them with content automatically until they become familiar with your brand and expertise. This is called nurturing. Finally, your salespeople can see what the clients are doing on your website, which pages and blog posts they read, how they engage with your company, and then they can follow up with the prospects that visited your website and try to convert them. So let's imagine that you're offering chatbots in multiple languages. So they visit that information in your website. You're calling them and you say, hey, I see you're gathering information about multilingual chatbots. Are you building one? Would you like to get more information from our experts? And so on. So if you are as small as an LSP and you want your marketing team to grow and invest in it, it's easier to build around an inbound methodology and software than to just play it by ear. Konstantin, why don't you share with us some examples?
I'll be happy to. The translation industry isn't very hot in marketing, but some are doing it better than the others. And I've collected a few examples from different companies that caught my eye. Let's start with Greenwich. This is an example of an ebook that they've made, a definitive guide to website translation. And this is a large book. It's 139 pages long. And it features articles by all familiar personas in the industry, all the pundits. It's a great layout, and you want to download it, or if you have it, you want to keep it in your repository of premium content. To get it, you need to fill in this form, and once you fill the form, you're in the Lionbridge system. They know who you are. If your company is interesting for their sales, they can track you. Another example is from a much smaller company. This is Wolfstone in the United Kingdom, Wales. They've designed a few ebooks, but they've done things differently for Lionbridge. For example, they've designed an ebook not for customers, but for partners. How to sell language services as a part of your project to create a website for a client. So a digital production company can download that, understand how they can sell the services, how they can white label them, and become a partner channel for Wolfstone. They didn't also use the marketing automation systems. They used very simple plugins for WordPress, which made the whole thing probably cost them $100 or even less. This is an example of a drip campaign by Smartling. I'm just showing how many emails I've received from them after leaving one business card at the booth at the conference. So first, after leaving the business card, I got 3 or 4 emails from the content nurturing workflow. So they were testing what kind of interest I have, what subjects are relevant to me. And then I was subscribed and I was continuously fed information from Smartling, which I think helped me familiarize myself with their offer and the content. Here's an example from SmartCat. I talked to their marketing manager about one of the most successful campaigns that they have. And SmartCat is a big user of Marketo. So as Artem told me, the most successful one was a campaign to promote a live event, a partner meeting in Tokyo. By using templates in Marketo, they sliced the database of people to invite in 10 different ways, and they could quickly make these emails automatic, but also personalized for different groups, which resulted in a more populous event with more people and eventually more deals. An example from the United States, a company called Greenwich. They used Pardot, a marketing automation tool from Salesforce, and they really invested in it at some time. If you came to the website, they would have huge pop-ups open up with their most efficient content promoted to you. So these pop-ups and these forms help them generate about 100 leads a month, according to the marketing manager. And finally, an exception from the rule, Translator.net. Translator.net is a language services company that has probably the most visited website in the industry. They even have more traffic than ProZ.com, than the marketplace, according to SimilarWeb. They have a really good content, this analysis of economic power and purchasing power behind different languages, which is completely open. So you can come to the website, study it, different visualizations, updated data. Every year they publish a new one, but there's no marketing automation touched, so they just use it to promote their brand, but they don't ask you to leave your contacts in the chat. So a few examples how it's used to draw people into the websites and capture them as leads. Renato, let's talk about the processes behind the scenes, how it's all happening for the marketing person on the LSP side.
Once the visitor comes to the website and fills in a form and clicks on the GDPR or the cookie consent, these systems will put a cookie on your browser and start pulling profile from social networks and associate with your email address. So the resulting tracker register every action across email, social media, and website visits. And these actions are recorded in the CRM and can be fed into your or any other third-party CRM, such as Salesforce.com, as a widget. So the next step, and this is one of the key parts of using inbound market, is that once you have hundreds of leads, you need a way to sort that content. And the best way to do that is to score those leads, to prioritize the ones that need immediate action. And these priorities could be whatever you decide. You can organize them by services, by size of company, or by language pair, whatever criteria you want to use. So for example, if somebody opens and spends time on 3 or 4 pages in your website, that's an indication probably that there is an intention to buy. On the other side, if somebody is not active and doesn't show up to your website for 3 months, you can downgrade their score because they're not really engaged. So the higher the scores, the lead gets, you can automate this process and generate notifications for salespeople to pick up the phone and call the prospect when they're ready to buy. In my personal experience, I have worked with a system when we scored leads from 1 to 100. We used to give more points, like 10 or 20 points for a webinar. So the fact that you're attending this webinar gives you a higher score than somebody who just follows us on Twitter. If you follow our podcast, you have a higher engagement than a person who just reads an occasional article in our website. So when the clients reach a certain score, let's say 65 or 70, they are ready to engage. So you can move in the other direction. So you can associate workflows with all these things. You don't need to do them all the time. Depending on the software, this workflows can start from many triggers. You can decide to send a second email. The example that Kostya showed earlier from Smart with drip campaigns. If nobody opened, if the person didn't open the first email, you can automatically send another one after 24, 48 hours. If they don't open the second, you can create a notification to a salesperson to give them a call to see if they're interested. So you can time and create rules for to re-engage with people if they disappear after 3 months or things like that. I always like to tell this story that I used to do a workshop, a sales management workshop for translation company owners. And I used Constant Contact to send my mailing list. And over time, I identified a pattern of behavior. If somebody clicked on the email link 3 times, at least 3 times, they would register to my workshop. So in the past, when I came to an opportunity that I saw someone that had clicked 10 times in that email that I sent to them, and they didn't register, I just picked up the phone, called the person, understood that there were some issues there, and I was able to convince them to come to the workshop later on. So you don't have to be a genius or a programmer to work with inbound messages. The next slide talks about this concept of builders. And builders and templates, these are tools that all these systems have that make it easier for marketers that don't want to design pages in HTML. And they can provide templates that make it very easy to create emails and even web pages for registration and challenges like that.
I'll quickly jump in here, Renato. In my practice, it was best to use these builders for pages that would have quickly going content and transactional. For example, a quick event, maybe a landing page to test something. So you can build it from a template really within an hour or two, and it's really easy. The disadvantage is that if you want to build a really complex page, then you're in big waters. Sorry.
Absolutely, yes. No, it's a very good point. So finally, this top marketing automation systems also have a lot of software that is integrated into them. So you don't need to just work with the basic email approach. You will have integrations that allow you to use videos after a certain time, insert promotional messages, provide emails to them. And there are integrations also that feed your webinar registrants directly into the CRM, which is what we're doing here with you. So, Kostya, what else is there?
I'd rather speak about the disadvantages because we've advertised those systems enough. Unless a company goes prepared into inbound marketing, they can run on many stones that are visible under the water surface. First of all, for a medium-sized small LSP or tech company that doesn't have millions in the marketing budget, buying the system and adapting it from scratch is a big commit. So you have to invest 10,000 a year, maybe 20,000 a year. In some extreme cases, you have lots of context. Then you have to pay 30,000 or even more. And your costs, they grow up every year because your database grows. So unless you're ready for this, it's a big commit. And if something goes wrong, a lot of money is wasted. Second, when you use these tools for marketers, they're pretty straightforward and simple to use for people who do not have technical expertise. But once you want to do something in a customized way, then you might run into limitations. One of the limitations I discovered is that if you use these pages, page builders from HubSpot or Marketo or another system, they host those pages on their own servers, and any search rate from the keywords that you set up, it goes to this installation. So next time, if you want to switch a system or cancel your subscription, you lose all that search rate. And finally, I would say one disadvantage they have is somewhat low flexibility when you decide to go into integrations and use their APIs. These companies have very good support on the first level, but when you want developer support, it wouldn't be easy to connect to HubSpot, Marketo, Pardo developer, and get help on your integration. You have to go to the forums, and this probably will take some time. So think twice before you commit to this. One way one way to go about this is to take some time to prepare and to use some of the tools that are inexpensive or free. Renato?
Well, some of the recommendations that we start getting to the end of the presentation, and we want to share some ideas with you. One of the key tools for marketers is the use of personas. But there is no need for you to spend a lot of money trying to build this. The value of the personas is that you communicate, you create messages that will attract people with certain needs. So if you're selling to salespeople, what types of questions they need to ask. For writers, what type of content they need to produce. For prospectors, where you can find them, and what are the job titles of the people that you want to sell to. And for advertising people, what are the keywords that they are looking for. So you build different personas who are the people who are buying from your organization. Another way of calling this in traditional sales, we call this profiling. So the marketing companies have already developed lots of these profiles, and that's part of their methodology. So the best use of this personas exercise is for you to define what are the profiles of the buyers of your company, and identify what are the obstacles, challenges, pains, and objectives. Always think of the person who's reading your content and write it to them. You can do an exercise with your team and try to design a profile of your existing customers. Your project managers are great at understanding what is the age profile, titles, family background of your key clients, because they are in constant communication with them. This is great ammunition for the salespeople when it comes to negotiation. And it's very important for the project managers once you are onboarding new clients to be able to understand what are the criteria that they use and why they're buying from you. Kostya?
My recommendation would be to make sure that the system that you're using integrate together. Very often companies develop a CRM or some way to track their customers before they adapt the marketing system. So you might have a Salesforce.com CRM, Pipedrive, or Bluenet or XTRF where you track your customers. Then you set up your marketing system, and if it's not integrated, you might see people coming into your website regularly and score them as leads, but in reality, they're existing customers. So avoid these silos of information on your site. Make sure that your marketing system connects to the sales system and preferably even to a production system so that you have the transparency all the way through. In practice, the companies do this with custom systems, with custom ERP proprietary, and I don't think there is a solution in markets that can connect everything from GoTo like this, but it will be worth it if you invest the money and you invest the time to create a unified and integrated infrastructure. And again, the best way to go about inbound marketing is to ease into it. So prepare your company, develop content, try which works, which doesn't, before you commit to a bigger, comprehensive, all-encompassing system with tracking, content builders, workflows, everything. You can try out with inexpensive SaaS for emailing. Here is a list of some of the systems. Drip, for example, SharpSpring, Fusionsoft, pretty powerful for a small business. It used to be only HubSpot or Marketo, Pardot in the past. Now, a lot of startups disrupting this market, and they have advanced functionality for a fraction of the cost. So try with this. If it works, you can migrate and upgrade to a bigger system later on. If it doesn't work, then you haven't committed a lot of resources to this process, and the test didn't cost you an arm and a leg. Renato?
Okay, we're getting to the end, and you might be asking yourself, why are we talking about inbound marketing so much? Isn't this a time of GDPR where everybody's concerned about privacy and challenges like that? Well, inbound is the way to go and to be compliant with GDPR, because you're bringing people to you, you're not going after them. You're attracting them to give you permission to keep communicating with them. So for inbound marketing, don't think only about blogs. This is a very common mistake. In fact, try to create news, not just content. Try to create shareable content. And here are some things that you can try. You can do in-person events where you attract people to see an attraction or to share some important information, or just to get together and share some food. Webinars with high status or unique people, interactive content like tests, templates. We have the Nimdzi IQ. If you haven't tried it yet, it's a good example of a little test that you can use to attract people to leave their information with you. You can also address a new difficult topic that the world as a whole is talking about, and try to bring it to your personal experience, to your industry, to the experience of your company. How-to guides are also excellent. And one of the tools that I love, I really find this tool invaluable, it's the HubSpot blog topic generator. It's a free tool. This helps you when you don't seem to have any ideas on what to write. Just plug in a few words and it will give you suggestions of titles for content that you can create. So if, to summarize everything here, I would say, number one, develop personas and processes. Know who you're selling to, know who you want to communicate and who you want to attract to your company. Make sure your content speaks to the right audience. Know what is interesting to them. Build a network. The network effect is a multiplier effect. the more and the better followers that you have, the wider is your reach. And the best systems are those that keep all the information in place. Don't try to own everything. Keep it simple. Centralize information as much as you can.
And
understand. Yes, go ahead, Kostya.
Yeah. Today, I think I have the last statement. You don't have to adapt inbound marketing. Maybe sales is enough for your organization. If you're a small LSPs, if you have a few development managers, you're good to go. You don't want to spend 30, 40, 50,000 on inbound marketing. But it's important to understand the topic of inbound marketing, because there are thousands of businesses that are adapting this methodology, and they have marketing people who produce all the content. And you can sell to them. You can tell them, okay, we know how you use HubSpot, we know how you use Marketo, we know what kind of content you need. We can make it in multiple languages, multilingual, maybe created from scratch, transcript, even integrate into the tools so that you make the process easy for them. So inbound marketing can be a tool for you to market to the audiences, but it can also be a topic that you can use to engage marketers and to sell to them.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Kostya. And remember the power of small. You don't need to do anything huge. Sometimes all you need is to attract 3, 4, 5, 10 customers. You don't need to be like a big multinational company that tries to reach 100,000 people to attract 1,000 clients. Think of the power of small when you're doing your inbound marketing. Sandra, this is our show for today. On to you.
Thank you very much, Renato and Kostya, for that presentation. Now we will be taking a couple of questions from the audience. So I guess the first question that we have here, guys, is how long will it take for me to see an ROI?
Sandra, let me take that one. I think that it's a very common question, especially when it comes to marketing. I think that one of the oldest quotes in the marketing space is the famous John Wanamaker comment that half of my budget in marketing is wasted. I just don't know which half. What the new marketing tools have created is the ability to measure all the results, all the things that you are building and creating with inbound marketing. I don't like to think in terms of ROI, because if you look at the numbers that we're talking about here, and Kostya shared how much some of these cheap tools cost, we're talking about very, very small numbers, things that a couple of projects, a couple of translation projects could pay for. So don't worry too much. My recommendation would be don't worry too much about ROI in the short term. Look at this as a practice that you need to bring into your organization. Look at this as a good practice. It's like you have to buy toilet paper for your office. You have to do inbound marketing. And don't worry. So the ROI will be there if you do it right. My strong recommendation is start thinking of how to improve the metrics that you start gathering, and the metrics will guide you in how to improve your delivery and your content. And the ROI will come. Don't worry about it. Kostya, do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I would say that an inbound marketing team is not a replacement for a sales team. And the translation market is very, very competitive. So unless you do a really cool PR stunt, that wouldn't really bring you clients right away. But if you empower your sales team with good inbound marketing, if people recognize them, if they know about their expertise, then the synergical effect, I think within 6, 7, 8 months is going to be noticeable.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question in Facebook from Alexander, and the question is, what content can get MLB company instead in SLV company?
Okay, we talked about personas here. The buyer persona from a single language vendor in a multi-language vendor is a vendor manager. So you need to understand what is the profile of a vendor manager, what is their role inside the organizations, how they behave, what are the challenges that they have, and you have to speak to their issues. You have to develop content that is relevant to vendor managers and project managers, the people that deal with you. Another line of content that would be interesting, it has to do with when you're a single language vendor, you're essentially the representative and the expert in your language. So talk about your language, talk about the challenges that exist in localizing into your language in different verticals. So you're an SLV specializing in mechanical industry. So what are the top brands that are localized into your country, or anything related to the value of your language, of your area of expertise, and combine that in a language that is interesting to a vendor manager. And what is a vendor manager interested in? They're interested in long-term relationships with their vendors. They're interested in ways to improve productivity by reducing cost. And if you write to them, you are going to be doing, you're connecting with the right persona. And I'm saying writing, but this could be through videos, it could be through any type of content that you decide to create for them. But go ahead, Kostya.
I would say that what I've noticed with MOVs and SLVs is that MOVs have new needs all the time, right? So they used to need translations, then they needed translations with Trados, then they needed some specific languages, like small languages. These days, they need audio engineers, language engineers, machine translation training. So if you're a translation company in France, then if you speak about how to do subtitles in French, how to dub in French, how to do copywriting in French, talk about new services, data services, that would catch their attention. And also, of course, like you said, Renato, speak to the challenges of the vendor manager, which is low resource languages these days. So if you're in France, perhaps you have some dialect languages like Breton. Should you localize into Breton if you're selling or localize it into French? Do you agree?
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, thank you. And we have another question. This one is about the team for inbound marketing. It goes, what kind of team do you need to run an inbound marketing?
I can take this. Yeah. So from my experience, you need a person who has content, a mind for content, who can understand how to produce not the usual marketing blah blah, but really do something with the content, address a new difficult topic, find information, make connections in the information that no one has made before. It has to be a person who can really say something new with the content. So that's one part. And the second part, which is really important to any current team, is the digital programmatic person who can understand Google Tag Manager, APIs of different systems, who can help with the HTML connecting systems, setting up programmatic workflows, campaigns. The person who understands, for example, how to modify URLs to have custom tracking events. So one person for content is essential, at least one, perhaps 2 or 3 if you're a bigger team. One person is essential for this programmatic marketing. And LSPs often hire event managers who have a broader perspective and good customer service and have organizing skills. to run their own events or to present themselves really well at third-party events. So this would be the three profiles necessary for any marketing team in a language industry company.
I would add just that sometimes you're too small and you can't afford to have more staff. Working with agencies is a good way to go. However, keep in mind that you are still responsible for identifying the personas and creating the profiles, because the final user, the writer from the agency will not know how to be an expert in our space. You are the expert in our space. You can use their services, but it needs to be your voice. It needs to be your content, at least the general view of the content. You can go to HubSpot, blog title creator, create a bunch of titles and go out and outsource the writing of that content. It's something that's totally feasible. So you have this way. You can do it in-house with a small team, or you can outsource it and work with agencies to that. Or a combination of both, which has been my experience in the past. Sandra, do we have any more?
I think we
have time for one more.
I think we have time for one more. And I think that the last one is, will I need a whole new website?
No.
No.
That's short. Okay, that's easy, and I think it's a perfect way for us to close our conversation. You don't need a new website. Just use your own website and make it inbound friendly, and make it easy to track where your clients visit you. And today, the majority of companies use either WordPress or Drupal. These platforms have a lot of features that will allow you to do this job well. So you don't need to change your website. In fact, I would claim, in my experience, websites don't sell. They help you promote. You just don't need to have a website that looks like it was done in 1997. Makes it look fresh, make it look new, and you're fine.
Excellent. Any other extra comments, Kostya?
No, I agree with Renato. You might not even need a big website. It's important to have the content. It's important to have triggers around the content, but perhaps you can execute all that while staying in the community of your clients, right? If you can have tracking there. So I would avoid building a new website, investing too much money into shiny landing pages, unless you have a big SEO strategy, because the content can exist like on LinkedIn. Maybe you get more views, more readership if you just post your article on LinkedIn and then put a call to action button there to some conversion mechanism than by having it on your own website or blog. So think content first rather than this pretty website first.
Excellent. Guys, well, that will be all the questions. If you want to have, basically feel free to leave any other questions and we'll get back to you. If you also would like to have any help from us in your marketing or sales strategies, contact us and we will be happy to chat about our consultancy packages. Remember as well to sign in for our next webinar on the 27th of June about soft skills for PMs. Right? We look forward to have you there. That's a wrap, everybody. Thank you very much. And now go on for your next meeting. Thank you. Bye.